In tonight's Tax Insider, another inversion. This week, manufacturers Johnson Controls and Tyco announced a mega merger. They say the deal will speed up innovation in the field of smart technology. Johnson Controls makes ventilation systems, car batteries, and auto seating. Meanwhile, Tyco makes fire suppression systems. Together, they're worth about $36 billion. But the deal is not good for the U.S. Treasury. To explain why, I'm joined by David Williams, president of the nonpartisan Taxpayers Protection Alliance. Thanks for being here, Dave.
Thank you.
Refresh our collective memory. What is an inversion, and does this merger fit the bill?
So, Mike, an inversion is a fancy term for two companies merging and then one of the companies moving overseas to get preferential tax treatment. So if you look at this merger and this inversion, it absolutely fits that model of inversions. It's because Tyco is buying or merging with Johnson's. And what's happening is, here's the issue, Mike, is that Ireland has a corporate tax rate of about 12.5%. The corporate tax rate in the United States is 39%. So this is why these inversions happen, and this is why this particular one is happening. And this could save the company about $150 million a year in taxes.
Big picture, how much do these inversions cost the federal government?
These inversions cost the federal government about $20 billion over the next 10 years. And this is lost revenue. So this is revenue that will not be coming in because these companies have inverted and will now be based in Ireland.
Of course, you know this is not a new issue. The Johnson Controls Tyco mergers, it's only the latest corporate inversion to happen. It probably won't be the last either. I mean, we're not seeing any action really from lawmakers to close this loophole to tackle this issue.
Well, I would argue that it's really not a loophole. It's really a function of the corporate tax rate. Now, the Treasury Department has tried to discourage inversions or trying to have new rules about ownership of companies, and 80% has to be owned by the foreign company. So Treasury is trying to do this, but Congress really has the ability to do this by lowering the corporate tax rate. And that's what's going to keep companies in this country. It's not rules from the Treasury and some sort of manipulation like that. It's just really good tax policy that will keep companies here.
All right, David, let's move on to football. The Super Bowl is less than 2 weeks away, and the host city is Santa Clara, California. First of all, who's your pick, Broncos or Panthers?
My first pick is never to give sports picks because and just deal with policy, but I'm going to pick the Broncos because I really like Peyton Manning, and I want him to go out in glory, win the Super Bowl, retire, and I think that would just be great for the sport and also for him.
Yeah, I'm wearing orange if you can't tell who my pick is, and I think a lot of people are just cheering for the Broncos because of who they just beat, but we'll move on from that controversial topic. Another team will call California home next year. The Rams are moving from St. Louis to Los Angeles. This is a taxpayer issue. What do you think about how all this played out?
Well, the Rams moving to Los Angeles, a very interesting issue because their stadium was taxpayer funded, the one in St. Louis, and they're going to be paying for that stadium $12 million a year until the year 2022. So the team's not going to even be in St. Louis, and taxpayers will be funding that old stadium. They've also spent $16 million for plans and models of a new stadium in St. Louis. So that money is completely gone. Now, if you look at San Francisco, where the game is going to be held, $114 million for that stadium. And we see this across the country, Mike. We see 29 of 31 NFL stadiums are taxpayer funded. And these are billionaire owners that are getting this largesse from taxpayers. And the owners can afford to build these stadiums. They just choose not to because they have this open spigot of tax dollars.
And the Rams are not alone here. The Milwaukee Bucks got help from Republican Governor Scott Walker last year to the tune of $220 million. The list goes on and on. We've seen very strong advocacy even here in Washington for these taxpayer, city-funded sports arenas. If a mayor or governor wanted, could he or she stop this practice, standing up against taxpayer-funded stadiums?
I'm so glad you brought up Scott Walker because this shows this issue is not partisan, that Republicans and Democrats alike get sucked into this vortex of taxpayer-funded stadiums that they want this. And mayors and governors, they can stop this. They can stop saying that if we don't get taxpayer funds, the team is going to leave. That's what Scott Walker did in Wisconsin. He said the team will leave if we don't fund this stadium or this arena. So mayors and governors need to stop this rhetoric and really put the onus on the owners to fund these stadiums. So there's a lot that they can do.
And to those who advocate for these plans, these deals that they say creates huge economic investment and spurs growth in a city and then leads to more tax revenue, what do you say?
Well, they really don't spur a lot of economic activity. So we looked at all the stadiums. We looked at poverty rate and median household income. Now, what we found was amazing, that in 60% of the cases, the poverty rate went up and median household incomes decreased in areas with taxpayer-funded stadiums. So it doesn't have that much of an effect. And if you look at here in Washington, D.C., Nats Park, $86 million just for the metro station. So this is $86 million to redesign and to redo one metro station. Imagine what that $86 million could have done through the whole metro system, whether it's escalators, better stadiums or stations. So these are lost opportunities here for taxpayers to fund real needs of the city.
David Williams, president of the nonpartisan Taxpayers Protection Alliance. Thanks so much, Dave.
Thank you.